am Janine, and my daughter Jessica and I own Props and Posies Photography, where we specialize in newborn and children photography. We also own Props by Posies, where we sell props and also patterns, sewing patterns, so that you can make your own newborn or sitter props. And you can find us on, you found us somehow, but we have an Etsy shop, Props by Posies, and we also have a website, propsbyposies.com, that has just our patterns on it. So today we are going to make the Harper little romper. And this is a sitter romper where I have a small and a large size. So the small is about 6 to 12 months, and then the large size is about 12 to 18 months. Should fit within that range on an average sitter. So let's go ahead. I also want to mention before I get started that we do have a Facebook group. So if you've purchased, if this is your first purchase, or if it's your second or 15th, whatever, if you're not a part of our Facebook group, you're going to want to do that. So we have a Facebook group called Props by Posies Pattern VIP group. And it's a great support group. We answer questions in there often. There's other women in there that help answer questions, inspire. They post what they're making, and it's just a great group, and very positive and upbeat, and it's really fun. So be sure to join that. Also on our website we have an inspiration page. So at propsbyposies.com, and you just go to the inspiration page, and it has a bunch of things that our Facebook VIP group members have made and posted, and I've taken those and put those on there so that you can see what they've made and you can be inspired. Basically, it just gives different fabrics that they've used, different. Sometimes they've tweaked the pattern a little bit to be a little bit different, and you just get ideas on how that works. It's an awesome group. So I really want you to join that if you haven't already. So be sure to go and do that. The link is in the written instructions, I believe. So go to your instructions and look for that link on the links page, which is the second page of the written instructions. Okay, also, so let's look and see what you're going to need for this romper. So I have two different coordinating fabrics. I usually do the top with a floral, and then a plain or polka dot or whatever two that you want to use that go together. This is the first pattern I've done where the whole thing is made out of woven cotton fabric, non-stretch. So therefore it's a very blousey look. If you don't want it that blousey, you can certainly trim down the pattern. I'll just give you kind of a basis on how to do that. But blousey is the look we're going for. So I have two fabrics. I have a half a yard of this, the one that we're going to do the pants, the bloomer part in, and then the chest or bodice part is just a 1/4 of a yard. You can even go less than that. The chest pattern piece is like 5 inches wide, so that's all you'll need on that. So I have the fabric, I have the pattern cut out. This is how the pattern prints, is like this. It comes out in 6 pages, I believe it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so you just cut those out. These you'll have to put together, and so these are the back. Make sure you put back to back, the back and the back together, and you just butt up the edges like this. You'll have a little bit of a gap. That's what you're supposed to have. So just tape it, tape, and then cut it out. Okay, so make sure you just butt up the paper. Do not take and match up, to the dotted line, or to the solid line. Just leave that gap there. That's how it's supposed to be for measuring purposes. So leave that there. Okay, and then cut it out, and it will look like this when you're done. You should have 4 pieces, and this is what it looks like. So you have the chest, and you have the little casing that goes around the neckline, and then you just have the front and back of the pants. The back will be a little bit longer because we're going to fold that over and put elastic in there, and that's why it's longer. Okay, so that's what it will look like. You're also going to need scissors or a rotary cutter. Because this is a woven cotton and I don't like to deal with the fraying, I use a pinking shear or a pinking shear rotary cutter. You'll need straight pins if you want to pin that to your fabric. You'll need straight pins anyway. This is the first time also I have not used Wonder Tape, I think, well, not the first time, but in the last 15 I've done anyway. Because it's not a stretch knit fabric, so you don't need the Wonder Tape. This is, you'll also need some elastic. You just need one that's cut about 10 inches long and two that are about 9 inches long. Also, I've pre-cut just a strip of my fabric. You can use whichever fabric you want of the two. I like to use the bottom fabric because it goes through the neckline of the romper. Now you can also use just like a ribbon, like in one of them, I'll show you in a minute, I used just like a silk ribbon that went through. So you can use either one, but we're gonna, for the pattern purposes, we're gonna use the fabric, and I just cut it in about 1 1/8 wide and as long as the fabric, so it's about 44 inches long. Okay, and then you'll want a bodkin threader or a safety pin if you don't have a bodkin threader, because we're going to be threading through the neckline, the strap. And then just some kind of measuring device, just because we usually will fold down like 1 inch or whatever, so I like a little measuring guide. And in case you make a mistake, you'll want a ripper outer tape to tape your pattern together. And that's about it. I think I covered everything. Some thread, of course, and a sewing machine. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started cutting out. Okay, so here I have my 1/2 yard of fabric for the bottom of the romper. So I'm going to go ahead and just fold it, because you cut on the fold. This is for the front, bottom, and for the back. So I'm just going to fold it and grab the front here. And so I'm going to just make it, and you're just going to pull it down so that I'm not wasting a whole bunch of fabric there. So, okay, we've got this, and it's cut on the fold. Cut on the fold. So that means you actually don't cut the fold, it just means you cut it out with this side laying on the fold. So you line that up, and then you're going to cut everything around it. Do not cut this side, because this, when you open it up, that will be your bloomer pants. So, okay, so just keep it just right snug on there. I'm not even going to pin mine. I'm just going to use my, this is a rotary cutter that has like a pinking shear type blade on it, so that helps with fraying, so it doesn't fray so much. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just cut this out. Remember, you're pressing through 2 layers of fabric, so you want to make sure that your blade is good and strong and you're pressing hard enough. And okay, that's the front bottom. My scissors. You'll want your scissors handy so you can do what I'm doing here. Just cut that so it didn't cut. And I wasn't pressing hard enough apparently. Okay. Okay, so there's one. Oh, I didn't do the crotch, so let's do the crotch. So lay that back down. Sorry. Forgot about that. Okay, the crotch. Just like that. Okay, there we go. There's the front. So I'll put that aside. Fold that, put that aside, and now I'm going to do the back side. Cut off this excess fabric here. The same, just make a fold in it. And then line up again on the fold, cut on the fold. We're doing the same thing. And I'm just going to lay that flat, and see how straight that is. I'm going to just use that edge so I don't have to cut on that. I lied, because I want the pinking shear on that so it doesn't fray too much. We're going to be doing some gathering, and so I hate to have the fraying strings along with the strings that are for the gathering. It just makes it so complicated and confusing. So I like to use the pinking shear so it doesn't fray so much. You can certainly just use a straight blade if you don't mind that, the fraying part. But this really helps. And one more. awkward angle there. Okay, here's our pants. The back. And then now we're gonna switch to, if you haven't cut out your strip, you'll wanna do that before you cut these out. If you're using a strip of fabric for the tie, you'll want to cut that out before we cut so you can get the length, all the length that you need. So be sure to do that before you cut. I should have told you that beforehand. So this is just extra leftover, okay? Now we're going to go ahead and go to the bodice or the chest part. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pull this apart, fold it over because it's a cut on the fold as well. And so this is 1/4 of a yard right here, and this this little pattern is like 5 inches, so a little over, it's 5.5. So you just want to make sure that you have enough. You can also upcycle on this. These bottom pieces are pretty big because it's a sitter, and so it's difficult to find something, you know, that big and a cute fabric that you like, and so that's why I'm just using regular fabric instead of upcycling like I usually like to do. That is the worst angle. I did that last time. I need to just fix it up. Okay. There's the bust, chest, bodice, I don't know what to call it. But there you go, okay? And then we're gonna do the, oh, I forgot the little casing that goes around the neck. You can do it in the same fabric if you would like. It's totally up to you, but I like to do it out of the coordinating fabric, just because then you'll have a break. You'll have this fabric on the bottom, the floral, you know, for the chest, and then you'll have a little piece of, a little casing or trim around the neckline that is also this. So just take your little piece here. I'm just gonna put it right up there so I don't have to cut it again. And cut that little piece for the casing. I should learn, shouldn't I? Okay. So there's that. So the only thing I have cut out of that other fabric, this floral fabric, is just that little chest part or bodice part. It actually looks like a chest part from here, but it actually does go down lower on the body. It goes about to the waist almost for the child. So, okay, so that is done. Grab your fabric and turn your iron on, and we're gonna start with ironing board. And I'm going to do all of my ironing right now at the beginning, so we don't have to keep going back and forth for the video. So it is handy to do it all at the beginning, but if you don't want to, if you want to do it as you go, that's fine too. I just, for this purpose also, it makes it very handy to just do it all at once. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and start with my ribbon. Now if you're just using a ribbon instead of a fabric, then you don't need to do this ironing part. You can ignore this part, fast forward, whatever you want to do. And then we'll go on to all of the other areas. So I'm just going to quickly let you know what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to talk through it all so that we can fast forward. You don't have to watch me iron in slow motion. So I'm going to go ahead and on this little bodice, I'm going to do the arms. I'm going to go ahead and iron the arms down. That will just help it stay. I'm also going to do one little clip about right there at the curve, and it's going to be like just under a 1/4 inch, so that when I fold this over, it spreads a little bit and it makes it easier to lie down. I'm going to do that on both arms, just right at the spot where it's the most curve, okay? And then when you lay it down, it opens up and curves a lot better. So snip that. I'm going to fold the casing. I'm going to iron the casing, the edges and the ends, and then you'll see it when I iron. And then I'm going to do the legs 1 inch and the top of the back side 1 inch. I'm going to fold that down and iron. So to start with, on this, if you're going to do the strap out of the fabric, what I like to do is just take the ends. Once again, this is about 44 inches long, And I feel like it's about right. It leaves a tassel in the back about like that. So I think it's a good amount. So looks like I am bleeding. I don't know what happened. And yes, it's almost the 4th of July, so my nails are 4th of July. They're a little distracting. I didn't think about doing the tutorial when I had them done, but okay. So I'm gonna fold this in half, and I'm just gonna cut down a little bit so that I don't have so much to work with on the end. I'm gonna do a diagonal, just like that. And that gives me just a little less fabric, so when I'm sewing it all together, it's not quite as crazy. So I'm gonna do that on both ends. So I'll do it again on this one, just fold it over, and then just cut a diagonal so that you don't have quite so much fabric. There's not really a science to it, it's just whatever. So that will fold down like that, and then when those fold over, you won't have so much to deal with. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start on this. So I'm gonna fold this end over. That's the first thing I'm gonna do. And then I'm going to go, and you'll know why I'm going to fast forward through this because it takes a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and just about a 1/4 of an inch. I should have my little, what happened to my little measuring thing that I told you to have? But you can kind of eyeball this because it's so narrow. But I'm just going to all the way down, I'm going to do that. Okay, so this is what I have. This is the back, and I've gone an inch. I folded it down an inch. This is where the casing is going to go, and we're going to leave a little ruffle at the top for the back. And then I just hemmed it an inch. We're gonna do the same, have a little ruffle on the bottom and make a casing for the elastic around the legs. That's the back. And then while I'm at it, I just iron the whole thing because it makes sense. You want it nice and neat, and so you don't have any wrinkles that make it off, you know, go off. The front is just, you don't do anything to the front top, but just hem the pants 1 inch. And then this is the casing that is around the neck right here. Let me show you. Whoops. So this neckline right here is what we've made. So that will be that. And then the long tedious one, which is just this. And you're welcome, like I said, to use ribbon or string. It would be easier to do that, but I do like the coordinating fabric. That's why I did it. And then on the chest part, I just basically hemmed this little around the arms. And that's going to be the first thing we sew. So, okay, so that is that. I am done ironing. And now we can go to the sewing machine and sew all the way through, which is nice. Okay, so here we are at the sewing machine. We're just gonna start sewing. Now this is a really quick pattern. So once you get the ironing done, half your job is done and it goes really quickly. So I'm just gonna start by hemming the arms, the little armholes or edges of the arm. And what I'm gonna do for that, I'm just gonna straight stitch, and I'm gonna put my folded edge right along the inside of this right edge of my foot. And I move my needle over just a smidge to the left, but this gives me a good guide, and so I wanted to use that guide, so then I just move my needle over. If you have that ability to do that, you can. Otherwise, just sew right, you know, right near the edge here. And I am going to back stitch just for kicks. And we're just hemming, so okay, one side done. Fast, fast. Go to the next side and do the same thing. It's been so long since I've sewn on a woven fabric that I have forgotten how. It's so strange, but okay, so we have both arms. I'll show you what those look like done. Maybe. Okay, so there we go. Looks like my machine needs to be adjusted a little bit, but there you go. It's just hemmed. Okay, that's what it looks like. Okay, so that part's done. I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to grab my front bottom, so the shorter one that's not hemmed, that's not ironed over, and I'm going to do what's called a gathering stitch. And to do that, I'm just going to go to my machine and I'm just going to make my stitch as long as I can. So it's a big straight stitch that just gives you a gathering stitch. And you're going to want some long ends on your thread, so make sure you have enough pulled out. And then you're just going to sew right along the edge. And I'm going to go a little bit more than a 1/4 inch, because when I sew the thing on, I want to be able to just remove not have these threads in the way. So I'm going to go almost like a 1/2 inch. And I'm just going to sew all the way along, and I'll show you the stitch when I'm done. And this does not have to be so straight, or, you know, it's just a gathering stitch that's going to be removed. So you really don't even have to worry so much about much. So, and then keep the strings, the thread fairly long, so you have something to work with. And what you're going to do is you're going to gather this to match the width of this front right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, I like to take the bottom thread. I feel like it does better for some reason. And I'm just going to pull. So you just pull one of the threads, not both, just one. And I like to keep it a little bit flatter towards the end and bring the gathering right towards the middle. So I'm going to just do what I think is about right. And then I'll show you how to know where you are, because you're trying to get it to match the width of this, which is kind of hard to see on white. So I'm trying to match this width with this width. So I'm going to take the bottom thread on this side as well and pull, and it gathers. And then kind of see where I'm at. I still have a little ways to go, so I'm going to pull a little tiny bit more. And like I said, I'm going to keep it flatter on this edge and have the gathering more towards the middle. Okay, so let's see where we are. We still have a little bit left to go, so I'm going to do a little bit more on this side. And I'm just about, I think that's about exactly right. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this. I'm going to go, oh, it's a little bit tighter in the middle. I'm just going to try and even it out so that it looks appropriate. It looks like there's the same amount of plain on each side, which is a little bit more on the other side. So I'm going to just kind of, just to where it looks good. I think that looks great. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place right sides together, just like this. And I'm going to take my pins, and I'm just going to pin it on the edge here. I'm going to pin it. I'm just going to do like about four or five pins just to get it right here. Hold it in place. Come over to here, do the end so then you can kind of see where you are for sure. Pin that end, and then I'll kind of see where the fabric is here. Let's see how we, okay, that's about, looks like it needs to be maybe a smidge more, less material. So I'm taking the back side again and just gathering just a smidge more to make it line up better. Okay, there you go. So make sure that's kind of smoothed out again. Okay, and then just pin it right there, and we are good to go. I think, yeah. Okay, that looks good, that works. And just because this is, I'm going to do one more pin right there to hold it right there. Okay, so there we are. I'm going to go ahead and just stitch it up. Doesn't matter which direction you go, but I'm going to do a 1/4 inch, and I'm going to make sure you put your needle back to a normal stitch, not a gathering stitch. And I'm going to put my needle back where it was in the middle. There we go. And I'm just going to use this right edge of the foot as my guide. Okay, so I'm going to make sure all the threads are out of the way so they don't get caught on the bottom. There's a whole bunch of threads because we have the gathering threads and the ones from the sewing machine. I'm going to back stitch here. And come on, it's not wanting to go, so I'm going to help it along. I'm not sure why it's not going here. Okay, needed some help getting started for some reason. I'm just straight stitching across, and as soon as I get to the needle, I'll take it out. And make sure that's lined up as good as you can. It's not crucial that it's exactly, but, and then you're just sewing right over those pleats. Or not pleats, gathers, sorry, gathers, to hold them in place. And if you want that gather to be all along that edge, feel free to do that. I just like mine smoother on the edges, so the gathering is just right in the middle, but it really doesn't matter. It's all preference, what you like. And then a back stitch here. Okay, and I'm just cutting that. Make sure you're not cutting the gathering stitches because you kind of need those long ones to pull it out when you're done. Okay, so this is where we are. We still have that gathering stitch in. I'll show you what it looks like. So that's what it looks like. Okay, and I'm going to now go ahead and get rid of that gathering stitch, and all you have to do is pull it from one side. Once again, I'm going to try and grab the back side thread. It doesn't really matter, but the back, I don't know, I just am biased to the back for some reason. And I'm just going to keep pulling that gathers, pulling those gathers over. I like to pull it out as one whole thread. It's kind of always a challenge for me. I don't know. If you break it, it's fine because you can totally get to it super easy, but just keep pulling that over. And then it gets to a point where you can just pull it out. So I've pulled out the back and then the top just comes right out. Okay, so there we are without that. Okay, so there's the pleats. Okay, cute. And then I'm going to go ahead and, we're going to do the gathering stitch along the top here. So we're going to gather this, and then we're going to sew this on. So the same thing, you want to make your, my needle just came unthreaded. You just want to make your stitch, again, as wide as possible for the gathering stitch. And then we will do the gathering stitch along that top part. My needle came unthreaded for some reason. Okay, so then once again, I'm going to go down a ways and just do the gathering stitch. I didn't. Thought I did. There we go. So I have the gathering stitch. I have it as long as my machine will go. And okay, whoopsie. And then once again, I'm going to pull that back thread and gather. And what I'm doing this time, how I'm doing it this time, same kind of idea where most of the gathering is in the middle, but you can do whatever you want. And this just requires not quite as much gathering. So, and what you're going to want to do is match it up to this. Now this doesn't have to be exactly, it can hang over a little bit. That's totally fine. You do want it to at least go to the edge. But then if you want a little bit hanging over, that's fine. Let me show you what I've done. I think both of these are a little bit different. So this one hangs over just a smidge. There's a little bit of room there, you can see. I think this one I did more right on. Okay, so really it doesn't matter. I kind of like to have a little bit hanging over, but it doesn't matter either way, however it ends up. So I'm just going to shoot for that a little bit. Once again, just keep pulling until you get it to where you want it. Make sure they're nice and even gathers. And then let's just measure and see where we're at. This is where that tape, the Wonder Tape, would come in really handy. It's the double-sided tape. I didn't talk much about it on this one because I'm not using it. But so that's how it's gonna line up. I'm gonna just go with that. And I'm gonna pull this down so it's halfway right there. And you're going to want to make sure that you're not, I don't know, it's really not that big of a deal, but I like to try to not sew right on that gathering stitch. I should have gone down just a smidge longer, but I didn't, so I'm going to go with it. And go ahead and pin it in place. And make sure you're kind of getting that up there good. I'm going to pin it again. What will make it easier is if you make sure that when you're ironing it, that you're getting it right in half, that the edges are really lining up when you're ironing. That makes it easier for sewing. Okay, see how I have that hanging over? So I'm going to gather just a smidge more. It came undone, which is fine. And just make sure that it not quite that much. Okay, and then do that last pin. So and what you're going to want to do, see that matches up pretty darn close, so I'm going to make sure this matches up pretty close as well. And I have this extra little material that drives me crazy, so I'm going to kind of snip it again so that it's not showing quite as much when it's folded over. Kind of tuck it a little bit. Okay, so then I will pin that as well. Okay, so there you go. Just make sure it's up and in there. I think I might need another pin there just to make sure. It's up, it's way up there, so it's good, but just for good measure, I'm gonna pin it again right there. And then we're just going to sew right along that edge. Same with this one. I'm going to pin this one too, just for funsies. So I get it nice and secure. Okay. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it as close to the edge as I can, but making sure, the trick is going to be making sure that you catch the back side as well. So hopefully it's lined up really well and you can catch both at the same time. So that's your goal, is when you're lining it up, is just to make sure that it's lined up on back. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the inside of my left side of my foot, so the inside left part of the foot, and I'm going to move my needle over 2 times. And I'm just straight stitching across the bottom there. And remember that you have to get that that strip through, which I dropped, but that strip has to go through here, and it looks like I kind of wish I would have done that just to not fold it over quite as much when I ironed it, but I think I'm going to be okay. If not, I can always use ribbon, so I'm not too concerned about it. But okay, so here we go. I'm gonna back stitch for sure, because this is and I'm gonna help it because it's really thick along that side, along that edge where it's doubled over. And okay, I'm gonna keep that right along. I'm keeping this fold right along that inside edge. And every time I come to a pin, my sewing machine needs to go in for some maintenance. It's acting kind of funny on me. Oh, you know what? I didn't. Okay, this is what you do not do. I did not turn I didn't get my stitch back to normal. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave it up so it matches, and then I'm going to go back over it again. So don't do what I just did. I didn't turn my stitch. I still have the gathering stitch going. So I can pull that one out just fine. Except that I back stitched, so it will be a little bit of more of a hassle. But I'm just going to go ahead and get my stitch back down, and then I'm going to sew it again. But now it's nice and secure in place. So, okay, I just have 1,000 threads. So here we go. I should have caught on why it was acting kind of weird here, but I didn't. Okay, here we go. I'm just having a struggle here. Sorry. Back stitch. Yes, I mess up all the time. That makes you feel better. Okay. And I don't want to cut all those because I want so that's what it looks like. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my bastings, my gathering stitch here. And see, and I probably sewed right over it, over on this side, so it might not, oh, there it goes. I didn't. Okay, and then the top layer, so I just pulled that right out. Whoops, that didn't, there we go. Came out this other side. Okay, so the gathering stitch is gone now, and we're just left with all the other ones that I did. Okay. So that was a mess up, but just learn from my mistake. Make sure you get your needle back down. Okay, so there we are. That part's done. Now it's just it's easy from here on out. Let me grab my things that I dropped on the floor. Right there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my the back side that has this, the part that we ironed down. I'm going to set this aside for a minute. And what we're going to do on this one is, okay, we are going to, we're going to go down enough that we leave a little part here for the, a little ruffle that goes on the top. So I'll show you what that looks like, in case you don't know here. This one I think is bigger. So this is kind of what we're doing. So we're making it so that we have this ruffle, and we're making this casing right here for the elastic, okay? So let me make sure I have my measurements right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my needle in the center position, And I'm just going to go here to this number 10 on my machine, which happens to be it's just a little less, 3/8 inch. And I'm going to keep this side of the fabric along this number 10. Can you zoom up on that? That number 10 right there on my foot. Okay, so I'm going to keep it right there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just straight stitch. I have my stitch back to normal. Back stitch a little bit, and then I'm just going to sew all the way down. So this is just basically the first seam for making that casing. Let's go straight down. The nice thing is you don't have to pin it because we ironed it and it just stays right in place. It's just really nice. Okay, so there's the first one. And then I'm going to come along and do another one to make the casing. So what I'm going to do on this time is I'm going to put, I'll keep my needle in that same position. Actually, nope, I'm going to go like this. I'm going to put this edge of the fabric along this edge of my foot. Okay, and then I'm going to actually move my needle over just 2. And that should give me plenty of room for my 1/4 inch elastic. Okay, so I'm going to back stitch. That's going to get caught in the side seam, but I just want it to be really secure for that elastic, so I'm back stitching. Okay, and I'm just going to keep this raw edge along this side of the foot. Okay, then you're going to take your longest piece of elastic, which is like the 10 inches long, and let's see which one that is. Just this one, and you're going to get your threader and thread it, or you're going to attach your safety pin, whichever works. And I'm just going to start on one end, and I'm going into the casing right here, not up here. I'm going in the middle right here where we sewed the casing, just like that. Okay, so this is where we're entering in. Now you're going to be careful as you go in. I always like to, first of all, when we're right here, you just grab these and pull them so that they go in nice, but you'll sometimes need to just kind of help it get in there the first time, but it goes in pretty easy. Okay, and as you're pulling, you're going to want to make sure that you're watching the end of the elastic, because this is a lot to gather on a small piece. And see how I'm almost to the end here? I'm going to go just a smidge more. Be really careful. I'm going to pull it right to the edge. And right there, I'm just going to, right on the very edge of it, I'm going to just sew it into, so it doesn't get away from me. I'm securing it into place. Okay, so that's super easy. So now my elastic is nice and secure, and I'm going to go ahead and finish pulling it through, and I don't have to worry that it's going to come flying through. It's because it's secure. Okay. What you do have to make sure is that you don't flip this out and then that goes inside, because then it stinks to get out. Okay, so here we are. Now what I like to do, shoot, I have a little measuring thing on my sewing machine that I usually go by, but it's under here. This is covering it. So I'm going to this is 6 inches long. I'm going to go about 8 inches long. So I'm going to, I should have brought my other longer one out down, but I didn't. And let me just show you what I do. Might as well just show you. I'm going to pull my machine up. And right here I have a measuring thing. So I just go to about 8 inches. So just going to continue to pull. 8 inches. This is for the small one, by the way. I don't know if I even told you. I'm doing the small, so the 6 to 12 months. So about 8 inches is about where I want it. And when I get there, which it doesn't have to be exact, but close to 8 inches. And once you get it there, then you just do a little once again, you just straight stitch it to secure it, okay? And then you're done. You cut off the excess and you're good to go. Okay, so we're done with that. Now, all we have left to do is to, I'm gonna leave this off because I'm gonna use it for the legs as well, the little measuring thing here. So I'll just leave that off for now. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is sew the two pieces together, and we're gonna go right sides together. So right side together, right side together. Now this is the part that's really important, is that you want these to match up exactly right, and I'm not doing right sides together. That would be terrible. Okay, right sides together. You want these edges to match up. So the edge of the arm to this. And we're gonna sew right along there. So just make sure that that is lined up. And on the other side, this lays up better than down. So you want to make sure that you're pinning that with this seam folded up, okay? And match that up so it matches. And pin. Actually, I'm gonna pin this way so I can pull it out. My goodness, here. Okay. I'm gonna pin it this way. Okay, and then we're just gonna, all the way down. And you only need, I mean, it's pretty easy to keep into place, so you only need a few pins, but, and then you come down and make sure that these line up really well, and it does. Because I did all the measuring for you, it should match up really, really well. And we're gonna go ahead and sew that, okay? And I'm using pretty much everything. The only thing I straight stitch everything except for the crotch, and the crotch I will do a zigzag just to give it a little bit more stretch. This is a really cute outfit for just a toddler, I think. If you want to make it just for your toddler to wear, I would do some snaps here. And they have, I was going to bring it down, I forgot. They have like a, I don't know what it's called, but it's like a cotton ribbon that you can buy that actually has the snaps, and you can actually just sew it on to here. What I would do is I would increase the length of the crotch just a little bit and then sew that on. And then you have snaps, and you can use it as for your toddler if you want. It's a really cute pattern. It's fun and loose and comfortable for them, especially in the summer. It's a nice cotton woven fabric. Okay, so I'm just doing the, I didn't move my needle, which I should have. I'm going to now. I'm just using this side. I'm just doing the 1/4 inch seam. I'm straight stitching all the way down. Making sure as I sew that this is facing, that this little seam here is going up. And then I'm just gonna go right up to here, and I'm gonna back stitch really well so I make sure that has a good strong hold there. And I like to do just a little bit of a diagonal cut there so that it doesn't show through so much. Okay, and we'll do that also on the ends. I do usually a diagonal little cut there. Okay, this is silly because I didn't have my stitches right, so or my needle in the right position. That's why it looks like that. But okay, let's go ahead and go to this next side. Same thing. You just match it up. Make sure this seam is facing up, and pin. And then same thing. Just matching it up. And I just realized, I have these. Now I'm not going to be able to put the elastic through. So when you sew it, open it up. I'll need to pick that other one out. So that's fine. That's fine. So make sure you undo those, and then it'll still fold up nice because you've ironed it, which is no big deal, but I'll just have to pick that other one out. Okay. you just get going and you kind of forget what you're doing, and off you go. Okay. Okay. I won't make you watch me pick it out, but same thing, 1/4 inch straight stitch. Just making sure that's all straight. Make sure this is forward towards you. Back stitch at the end. And okay, so now I will pick this out and fold those down and re-sew. Okay, so here we are. I have the sides sewn together. I picked this one out because I sewed it when it was folded, and that's why it has that little divot out of it, because when I cut, it was folded. Anyway, okay, so this is what it looks like. Let's turn it right side out and get an idea of where we are. So look how cute. There we are. All we have left to do is hem these, do the strap, and then one thing I didn't mention earlier is I do a little fabric loop right here. And I'll show you how I do that as well at the end. I need to go grab some more fabric to do that. But let's go ahead and just hem these pants. Once again, I like to do the little lace around, or not lace, gather, you know, little cute edge on it. If you don't want to and you just want to do a casing, you can do that too. But because I like to do that, I'm going to do the same thing as I did with the back, the top of the back. And that is, I'm just going to put it on my number, on my 10, which is a 3/8 of an inch, I believe we decided. And I'm going to straight stitch all the way across. And this is just on my leg, the bottom of the leg. So I'm going to just make sure that this is the seam is laying flat, so that that's nice and smooth. And just do a straight stitch all the way across. And that will be our first run, and then we'll do one more run down that same leg, and then put the elastic in. And then I'm going to back stitch. And then I'm going to do my second run. And once again, I'm going to move my needle over a couple notches, and I'm going to use that edge as my guide. Back stitch. And then back stitch again. Okay. Okay, that's what it looks like. Now you're going to take your other like 9-inch piece of elastic, and you're going to thread that through, and you're going to do it to about 7.5-ish inches long. So we're going to do it the same way. So I have this pulled just like that. I'm going to go in. And actually this, I would look at this and see which way you have this seam going, and then that's the way you want to go with the threader. If I was going from this side, it would catch on this seam like this, and it would be little, you can still do it, it's just a little more difficult. So pay attention to what side, you know, which way that's laying, and then go in that way. So because it's laying that way, I'm going in this side. And once again, I'm going to pull these this way, and then I'm going to just help that over a little bit. Okay, and then keep pulling and be watching this end right here. And when you get towards the end, you just, right there, you just do a quick straight stitch to stitch it into place and hold it there for you. I just go up, down, up and back. Okay. And then I'm going to keep pulling. And the one thing you want to make sure is that your elastic isn't twisting when you're in there. So make sure you're keeping it good and straight. That's why pulling those two down on the edge like this, that helps keep it from twisting. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that I have it at about 7.5, which on my little measuring thing, I can get a good shot of that. I'm at about 7.5 right there. So at that point, I'm going to just do the same thing. I'm going to secure it into place so I don't lose it. Cut it off the excess. And then we're done with that leg. And it looks like that. That's the leg. So you have the little ruffle here. If you don't want the ruffle and you want it to be just the elastic, then just fold it up, you know, just like a 1/2 inch, and then give yourself a 1/4 inch casing. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side, and then I'll come back and we'll do the strap. I'll show you how that's done. So we're finished. I have both of the legs done. That's what they look like. And now we're gonna do the crotch. And to do the crotch, I'm just gonna match up these edges as close as possible. I'm gonna pin it there. And then I'm not even gonna do the middle because it really just sits into place. It's really nice. It doesn't, just make sure your elastics are matched up and your edges here. And pin that. And then, like I said, this is where I zigzag, and because it's a crotch and it's on a woven fabric, I'm going to do two rows of sewing just to give it a little bit extra secure in the crotch. Okay, so I'm going to, once again, it's a 1/4 inch, or a 1/4 inch seam. I'm gonna go just a little bit less than a 1/4 inch, and then I'm gonna do the 1/4 inch on the second run. So I'm going a little less than that. I'm just doing, instead of going to the edge of this, I'm going kind of to the middle. So just a little bit. It's gonna go on top of each other, and that's okay. Oh, and I'm gonna zigzag, sorry, zigzag. And then back stitch, go over that elastic, and then just make sure that's lined up well, which it's pretty darn good. And stitch all the way around. It's still lined up pretty well. And then I'm just going to do it one more time for good measure. And I'm going to go a little bit higher this time. I know that's a little overkill. You don't have to do this, but I worry about those crotches being stretched, you know, on the babies. And so this time I'm keeping it, the edge along that edge of the foot, outside edge. I'm sorry, the inside edge. Just like this. There we go. That's what it looks like. It's a double, got double the strength here. Now, if you know, I do, you know, I like to take that snip off so it's not quite so, and then that can be straightened up. Okay, so there's what the crotch looks like. Because we used the pinking shears, that's kind of opened up the fabric a little bit to give it a little bit more give as well. So that's nice. Okay, so here we are. This is almost done. All we have left is a little loop on the back that I forgot to mention. And then thread and then sew up that little, so there's the crotch. Looks pretty darn good. Okay, Look at that, so cute. So let's go ahead and sew up this, the fabric that is for the tie, the strap. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to straight stitch these together, just how I ironed it. And I didn't use the pinking shears on this, and I should have probably, because it does like to fray. Okay, so I'm just going to set this. I like to use guides, so I'm going to use this inside part of my right side of the foot as my guide, and I have the needle moved over. I don't have, oh, because it's on zigzag, sorry. So it's not moved over, but I'm going to move it over now. 2 times, 3 times. See where I go, and you can kind of see where you go, so that's what I'm going to do. Actually, I'm going to do 2 times, so I'm going to go back 1. Okay, so I moved my needle twice over to the left, and we're just going to sew right down that side, and I'm going to back stitch a little bit. Okay, and I'm keeping this fold on against this edge. And because we've ironed it, it should be fairly easy. Just make sure your fabric's laying down inside. It should be fairly easy to just sew all the way down. These strings drive me crazy. And this doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, it's the tie. No one's going to see it and know that you didn't do it perfect. So don't worry about getting it too exact. Okay, I'm going to go all the way down this, and then I'll come back so you don't have to sit and watch me do this whole long 44 inches. Okay, so here we are. I am done with the strap. This is what it looks like. I am going to now use this, one of the ends, as the loop. So I'm going to take this and kind of, you want to loop about yay big. The reason you want it kind of big is because when you sew it on, you want to be able to move this to the side to sew right in there. So I'm going to go about almost around your finger, about like that. I think I can still move it out of the way. So I'm going to just take it like this, and then I'm going to give a little bit of a overhang like that, and I'm just going to cut it right there. Okay, so that's your loop. Put the other part away for a minute, and what you're going to do is you're going to find the middle of your back by just folding it. You can find the middle, and I like to stick a pin there so I know what I'm working with. Okay, so there's my middle, and I just leave that pin there for a second, and then I'm going to just once again overlap that just a little bit. I'm going to place it right here at the bottom underneath the elastic, so we're not sewing on top of the elastic. So just right there, I take the pin out, and what I'm going to do is just stick it right on the sewing machine. You can hand sew it on if you want, but I think this is so much easier. And so you can see I'm going to put this over the other way instead of towards me. And there's the overlap. And I'm just going to put that right under the sewing machine and make sure those are fairly even. And then put it down, making sure that that this is out of the way, and I'm going to need a look like a pin or something to help me. There we go, get it out of the way. Okay, so once again, we're sewing underneath the elastic, and I'm going to pull the fabric a little bit so that it's nice and smooth and not gathered. And I'm gonna push it up a little bit more. Give me a little bit of fit. Okay. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna sew this first. I didn't last time, but I'm going to this time. I'm just gonna see if I can just sew that in place so it doesn't get away from me so easily. So I'm gonna just sew that together. Just straight stitch it. Just like that. Like I said, if you want to hand do it, it's okay. But it's gonna take some fiddling to get it the way you want. Let's see if I can pin it. That might help. If I can get away without pinning, I like to, but it's giving me a hard time, so I'm pinning today. Okay, so I'm just gonna stick that under, put my foot down, take the needle out, the pin, and then just straight stitch over that to keep it in place. I'm gonna back stitch. Okay. It's just to hold it into place, nothing special. Okay, now I'll be able to work with it, I think, a little bit better on this. Okay, so the halfway point again, and it's gonna be right here. Smooth that out just a smidge. I'm gonna put, where I sewed it, I'm gonna put against the back so you don't see that. So this is what it will look like when it's done. It'll just be a little loop right there. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and, once again, put this under here. Sometimes you can do it and sometimes it just doesn't cooperate. So today's one of those days it's not cooperating. So I'm gonna do basically the same thing, and I'm just gonna sew back and forth. And I'm gonna do it a couple times to make it good and secure, because there will be some pulling on this, you know, with the strap. So there we go. And okay, so that is what it looks like. Just a loop that's just right on the back there. Okay, so then what we do is we take our strap that's around my neck, and if you want to, where you cut it, you can reinforce that so it doesn't, the threading doesn't come out. I'm just going to do that really fast, just so that it's reinforced and doesn't come out. Whoops, and I need to. That just reinforces that a little bit. Okay, then I'm going to thread it through my bodkin. So I have that threaded. And this is where we are going to thread it in. It looks like some of my threads got caught when I was sewing that together, so I'm cutting them off. Okay, so I'm going in. And this is pretty small, so it's going to take a little bit of work to get it through the end there. But once you do, it should go through fine. So you'll have to work with it. I like to grab a pin and use that to pull that over, and then goes through. Okay, and then so this is, and then you just match them up so that they're even. Like that. And then what you're going to do is crisscross through the back. Crisscross through the back. So it's like that, and then you just tie a bow. And when you're tying a bow, like for pictures, like if you sell them or whatever, you will want to hold on to this the top ones with these fingers. That's what I do, so that you can get it nice and tight. See how when you just pull it, that's what it does, unless you have some tension on the top on these two up here. Okay, so there you go. There's the back, there's the front. And once you get that wet, this, I probably next time wouldn't go quite so low, maybe up to there, but because you can see the little thread mark. But once you get it wet or you iron it, that'll go away. So there you go, we're done. That's what it looks like. Voila. Okay, so we're done. This is the Harper Romper. This is the small, and from 6 to 12 months, and then there's one from 12 to 18 months. So make sure you pay attention to which one you're doing. So this is it, it's done. So there's the back, and there's the front. I think it turned out super cute. I think you're gonna love this one, super fast. So it just goes really fast and it's so darling in pictures. So be sure to join our Facebook group if you haven't already. It's Props by Posies Pattern VIP group, and then you can visit our inspiration page and purchase patterns either on our Etsy shop, Props by Posies, or on our website, propsbyposies.com. Either way is great. So hope you enjoyed this romper, and go buy another pattern.